when you're into.
Perfect.
Hey everyone, Tina Hogan Grant here. I am the author of 13 novels. And in fact, I just had one come out a couple weeks ago, first fall. And I am doing my Cuppa A Natter that I like to do twice a month on a Monday. I like to bring authors into my home and we talk about books, writing, life as an author, and whatever comes to mind. And tonight, Karla Jordan is joining me all the way from Maine. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited to chat with you. We talk a lot online. You know, we're in each other's groups and we chit chat behind the scenes. But I've been looking forward to this chat.
Me too.
I have to say, well, we're going to talk about your books, but I'm going to say right off the top, I absolutely love the covers to both of your books.
Thank you.
Your books are The Road to Marietta, which is the one that came out September 22, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And then your debut novel was Cartwheels in the Dark.
Cartwheels in the Dark. Yep.
Okay. Yay! And that came out, I'm sorry, what did that come out like a year before?
It was. Yep, it was a year before.
But your covers are striking. We'll get into your books in a minute, but I did want to just say that off the top of my head because some covers just grab me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the black and white that you have your covers of. But I do want to say hi to a few people, and then we're going to jump in and talk about these gorgeous books of yours. But let me see who's here tonight. We have B is here, B Fowlerhill. She says hello from Kansas. Renee is here. She says good evening. We have Barbara from Northeast Florida. Hello, ladies. We have Janet. She says hello. I'm sure you know all these people.
I do. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. They all look familiar so far.
You know, I love about the book community. We get to know these people, these readers and the authors. It's a nice, close-knit community. Everyone supports each other. I just love it. Here's Lori. She says hello. We have, I'm going to go a few more, bring them in. Darlene Johnson is here. And Heather Skinner is here. Hi, Heather. One more. And Alicia Haney. Hi, Tina. Hello, Karla Jordan. And welcome from Texas. So, Karla, before we get into your books, can you just give us a little background to Karla? Whatever you want to share with the rest of the world.
Sure. I am, I've been a Mainer my entire life, born here, raised here. And there's really no place like Maine anywhere. The small communities for the most part. I just never left. I decided, it is beautiful. In the summer and fall and spring, when that comes, it's beautiful. Winter, not so much, unless you're an outdoor winter person, and I'm not.
Like the snow.
Yeah, which is why I sit in and write when it snows. I am the oldest of 5 children, and I've been writing for really as long as I can remember. But it was about the age of 10 that I decided someday I'm going to write a book. So from 10 to 50-ish, you know, a lot of life happened, and I decided it was time to start writing. So Cartwheels in the Dark came out.
And that was in 2021.
It was. Yep.
Do you happen to have a cover of that book or the book near you close by?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yep. This is Cartwheels in the Dark.
That was your debut.
That was my debut. Yep. And you mentioned the cover.
I love the cover.
I had an idea what I wanted the cover to be. I found the picture. It jumped out at me. So I had to have that cover. And then, you know, I didn't really have the skills to put this gorgeous picture on a cover. So someone had to do that for me, because I decided just because you can write, you can't do everything. And
I don't do my covers. I don't do mine.
You too?
Yeah.
I tried for forever, but for the life of me, I just could not make it do what I wanted. And graphics arts is not my thing.
No, and for me, it's like I want to spend my time writing my books.
Yes.
I want to spend time writing my books. Someone can edit them. Some can do the cover. And not only that, we have to market our books too.
Right.
So for me, that's enough. I don't want any more.
A lot.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
But at least you tried. I didn't even give it a shot.
Well, Well, I thought that I could, but yeah, it turns out, yeah, there's too much math involved in graphic arts, and I like words. I don't like numbers. So yeah, I had someone else do that for me, and then with the second one, I just automatically went right to someone else.
Oh,
Got the picture.
really?
What's
I'm
that?
curious who thought of the black and white theme? Because both covers have the black and white. Do you have
They
the other book there, the Road
I
to
have
Marietta?
Yeah, this one is Road to Marietta. Nope, there we go.
Yeah.
That one is purely black and white.
Mm-hmm.
This one has color in the dress. The
Right,
dress
that's
is
it.
slate green. Yeah, and that's it. Yep. And the words. But
Now, whose idea was that to go with black and white?
me, I saw the cover as I was writing it in black and white. And then the next one I didn't have any plan that it would be black and white. But it just I tried it both in color and in black and white, and I just thought that it fit the story better. Road to Marietta set back during the days of Prohibition, meant to be an historical older story. So yeah, the
Now,
next one I have no idea. It might be color, it might be black and white. I don't know. I kind of like the black and white.
I've always been a fan of black and white photos, pictures. So when I see a book in black and white, it just pulls me in. I'm just a fan of, I call it, Throwback Thursday themes or whatever you want to call it, but anything. I'm going to see the better days.
Yeah, that's true. There's something homey about it, isn't it?
It is. It's something I can connect with and always just grabs my attention. And old newspapers, old postcards, old books. I just thrive on them. I just love them. Now with you, you mentioned you knew at the age of 10 that you wanted to write a book, write a story.
Right.
What influenced you at 10 that you knew that you wanted to write books or be a writer?
Yep. I actually wrote an article on this recently for women writers online. That my grandmother, my father's mother, she lived up at the end of our driveway in her house, and every Wednesday and Saturday, like clockwork, she would come get me and take me to our tiny little library in town. And I just was reading everything in sight, all the Nancy Drew books, everything that, was age appropriate. And then when I finished reading everything that I could, that was age appropriate, I started reading Agatha Christie and some other books that my grandmother had read and knew were appropriate for me. And then, I was complaining to her one day that I wish we had more Nancy Drew books and the Hardy Boys. I read all those too. And she said, well, if they don't have what you want, why don't you make your own? And that always stuck with me through life. And when my children were younger, they would go to bed at night and I would write, and I would just stuff all these short stories and such in a box. And that's where they stayed through a series of life events, raising children and marriage, divorce, that kind of thing. And then one day, almost 4 years ago now, I decided that I wanted to write, and here I am. So I gave up my day job and said, well, it's either going to fly or it's not. It's just my husband and I, no more children at home, so we'll give it a shot. If someone buys,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If someone buys a copy, awesome. If not, at least I did it. And then people liked it. So I said, well, let's do another one.
But you took the giant leap. You quit your job and just said, I'm going to be a full-time writer.
Yeah. Well,
that takes courage.
Well, yeah. Well, I was doing some social work, and that required me to go into the homes of clients. And somewhere along the way from 20, the world changed, and I found myself in a position that I was nervous in. And I said, at 20, I was invincible. I'm not anymore. So I had a kind of a freaky day that day. And I called my husband and I said, I'm going to put my notice in. And I wasn't going to get done to write at that point. I just said, I'm going to I'll do something else. And then he came home that night and said, why don't you just do what you want to do, which is right. Okay. we'll try it and see what happens. So
What a
if not
great
for his
supporting
support, I
husband.
what's that?
That's up to your husband.
Yeah,
That is awesome for him to say that. Do what you want to do and right.
I know. He's my biggest fan, biggest supporter. I've thanked him in the front of both of my books because seriously, nothing gets done here when I'm obsessing. I'm sure you know that feeling.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you're on a roll, you're on a roll, and there's not a lot of housekeeping, a lot of meal cooking, when I'm in those places. So he picks up the slack.
My husband's the same. I mean, thank God it's just me and my husband now. There's no kids running around the house. I mean, when the grandkids come here, it's like a bomb's hit the place, but
but it's worth the mess, right?
But he's a great supporter too. And without him, I couldn't be writing. So my hat's off to you. I love supportive husbands like that. I love it.
Me too. You know how they say things happen for a reason when they're supposed to in its own time. This never could have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah. And it's like with me, Reckless Beginnings, I had the idea in my 20s, but I was 54 when it became published in 2018. And there's just too much stuff going on in my life that I didn't have the time or even the push to sit down and write.
Right.
And then circumstances like you happened in my life that was like, okay, I'm not going to be on this earth forever. If I want to write, I better start doing it pretty soon. So.
Yep. I was 54 when Cartwheels was published.
Yeah.
And the same thing. You realize that someday isn't as far away as it used to be.
No, I mean, with me, it was my dad passing, who was also an author. And he wasn't done writing. He still had a lot to write. And then when I got breast cancer a year later, it's like, all right, the clock's ticking. Right. I'm going to do this. I mean, I'm still working part-time out of the house, out of my books. You're braver than me. I just don't have that confidence to just pack it in and still not get that paycheck.
Right? It's definitely different.
Huh? What's that?
Different than when I was working, financially.
Yeah. So I still have a business outside of writing. Nice. And but my main focus is writing, and I spend as much time as I can writing my books.
Yep. And you still managed to get 2 a year out and working outside your home. That is awesome.
I just don't have a life anymore.
Neither do I. That has become my entire life right there.
Okay, I want to pause real quick and say hello to some other people. I've got some more questions about your wonderful books, but if you have questions for Karla, go ahead and put in the comments. And as you know, I will try and get to as many as I can, but I want to thank you all for being here. But let's see. Vicky is here. She says she loves how you get started. Renee says, did you self-publish or did you get a publisher?
I self-published. I knew nothing about it at the time. I went through trial and error, teaching myself everything that I needed to know about self-publishing. But I self-published because I like the idea of everything is on my shoulders. If it does well, it's because of me. If it doesn't, it's because of me. If it's poorly edited, it's because of me. I like having the responsibility of the entire thing. But with that responsibility also comes, I have a lot of say. I get to choose my own cover. I can say what I want. I can make the story go where I want. And a lot of times with publishers, you don't get to do that. So that's why
I'm 100% behind you. I'm self-published now. Reckless went through a publisher. And I couldn't wait for that contract to end. 2 years was like me forever. And for me, what not only was it, like you said, being in control, but it's like, this is our business. This is the business. And it's also a love that we love. We love to write. But it is our business that we created. And the minute you hand it over to a publisher, you just lost all rights to that book.
Yes.
And that just astounded me. And it's just like, no, I wrote that. I put all the sweat and tears into it. Give me my book back.
I read a lot of stories, a lot of horror stories about people saying, I can't choose my own cover. I can't make, Johnny end up with Sally in the story, or, they edit it to the point that it's no longer your story.
Yeah.
So I didn't want
And
that.
then, yeah, and trying to promote my books, like we both like to put our books on sale, whether it be 99 cents, 1.99. And I call
Right.
the publisher and say, I want to put Back to Beginners on sale for 99 cents. Oh, we can't do that for 6 weeks. Well, can you give
Right.
me a date? No, when it happens, it happens. Well, how am I supposed to promote a book and say it's going to be on sale on this date if you don't give me a date? And it was just
Right.
a nightmare. And
Yeah.
us as self-publishers, we know we can just go into Amazon, change the price, and boom,
Right.
it's done.
Exactly.
It
And you can
doesn't
advertise the date.
It
I
really
know.
like that. It just annoyed me. So I am self-published too. So, and I love it. I would not ever think about going to a big publisher, unless they change my life.
Right.
In a big
Exactly.
way.
Exactly. If I had 100% ownership and I could, keep it the way that I wanted, that would be different. But that's not the way the industry works right now. Maybe never. So it's not even a consideration to get
No,
a
and
publisher.
even the royalty checks. We still get. My dad's books, even after he passed 10 years ago, his books still sell really well. And
Yeah.
I'm in charge of his estate and everything, but the royalties, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. He gets 7% of the wholesale price
Yeah.
of a book sale, not the retail. 7%.
Right.
I mean, that's pennies.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And we get,
Oh,
40,
yeah,
50, 60,
definitely.
70.
Yeah.
It's, anyways. But I could go on about that.
Well,
Okay.
it's not ever going to get rich kind of thing. That's for sure.
I
But
know.
you do it because you love it.
Exactly. I'm going to put up a few questions. When
Sure.
Alicia Haney says, "Who has been your hardest character to write about and why?" Before we answer Alicia's question, sorry, Alicia, I do want to let's start with Marietta, because that's the latest one that came out. But can you just give us a little background of the story without giving anything away, and then we can answer Alicia's question so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So The Road to Marietta, this one, follows a girl named August Violet. It's set back during Prohibition in the Midwest, right outside Chicago, Ohio, Indiana areas. And she's the daughter of a moonshine runner who would rather be a moonshine runner than a father, and finds her to be in the way. So we follow August as she goes through survival with the help of strangers. And yeah.
Is it emotional? Is it an emotional book?
It is.
Very
It's an
emotional.
emotional. I think I write I think I like to write about the human spirit, the human condition, not necessarily always the underdog, but I like to show what it takes for a person to go through hard times, because we all do. I mean, no one gets out without having something. Some of us have worse things than others to deal with. But I like to show what it takes to go through and come out the other side of hard times and a struggle.
So like giving people hope.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And both stories are like that. Both girls had, tough backgrounds, but they came out the other side. So
I love it. So in regards to Alicia's question, hardest character for each book? Well, let's start with Marietta. Did you have a character that was hard to write about?
The dad for me in Marietta was hard because he's not the nicest person. And my father is the exact opposite. He's wonderful. He's, right behind my husband, my biggest supporter, biggest fan. When I'm wanting to tear my hair out sometimes, he'll kick me in the butt and tell me to keep going. And, he didn't raise quitters and that kind of stuff. And so that was hard for me to put myself in the place of a really nasty individual who I didn't grow up that way. He was wonderful. So that would be the hardest person I've had to write about so far.
And what inspired these two books?
I don't really know. So Cartwheels in the Dark, parts of that I had started 20 years ago. And part of that was all, thrown in my box that I've carried around every time I moved. And someday I'm going to get to those kind of things. And then I went back to it and read it and realized that 20-year-old Karla writing was a whole lot different than 50. You realize a lot. Life's not just roses and, you don't just marry a rich man and live happily ever after. And I had that kind of story in those pages. And so I went back and I don't think anything actually stayed, but that's where I started from that one. Marietta, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I was writing another story and I had, it's over half finished, and that was what I planned to publish. And then I woke up one night or in the middle of the night or morning, and I don't know if it was a dream or where it came from, but I had the urge to start writing this story. And for weeks, I did nothing but sit at the table and write, because I still write with pen and paper. And then I put it on the computer after.
Oh, wow.
My brain doesn't work in front of the computer. If I sit there in front of the keyboard, it's like my creativity starts flowing with pen and paper.
I can't read my handwriting to write a whole book. I'll be sitting there. Now, what does that say?
Oh, I do that too. I do that too. I went back yesterday to try to read what I'm writing now. Wow, I don't even know what I was trying to say there. But yeah, something about putting the pen to the paper. I think that's because we didn't have computers in school.
No, we didn't. I mean, I write my notes. I mean, I have a pad in front of me now, but I write my notes on papers and my to-do lists.
Right.
But my actual book, I write on the computer.
Yep. It must be a part of my brain that only functions with pen. I don't know.
You do what works for us. Now, do you plot your books, or do you just sit down and start writing? Your pen stuff?
Yeah, I am. I do not plan out anything. So I set out, when I'm ready to write, I set out a notebook on the table, which I did a couple of weeks ago. I took time off for my surgery and getting better and all that. And then I set a notebook out on the table, and every time I walk by that notebook and pen, if I have something to say, I'll write it down. And then before you know it, there's pages. And I don't know, things just kind of pop into my head and characters appear, and then I just refine them as I go.
Yep, the same way with me. I'm a panic. I don't plot. I tried plotting once, it didn't work, never again. Do you set yourself a goal every day for a number of words you want to write, or a time frame of when you want to write, or you just write when it comes, when you have the urge?
Right. I write when I have the urge. That's why I keep it on the dining room table, because it's right in the center of the house and I have to walk through there all the time.
You can't pass up.
I can't pass by without seeing it. So I'll see that sitting there and
it's calling you.
It is. Yep. So I never set so many words. It feels like work if I set out like an outline. And first off, I hated outlines in school when we used to have to do those. I liked creative writing better. So I just kind of go with it. There is no plan. The story I'm writing right now, I have zero idea where that's going. I just created, I've got 5 characters now, but I don't know what's going to happen with them.
I love that. I mean, I'm the same way. These 2 books. Yeah, the 2 books, The Road to Marietta and Cartwheels in the Dark, are they connected at all? Are they 2 separate stories, standalones?
Yep, 2 standalones, 2 different time periods, and just standalones. At this point, there may be others that connect.
Never say never.
Right, eventually. Eventually, I plan to make prequels or sequels or a tie-in somewhere into another story, but that's not what I'm working on right now. It's something
you're writing on a 3rd book right now.
I am.
Do you have a title or anything for it?
Nope. No title. I don't even choose the titles at first. I just start writing, and then after I've put it all in the computer and I start the basic editing, lay there in bed at night, and then names of titles would just start popping them into my head. And last time for the Road to Marietta, there was like 100 that I had written down. Nope, that's not really it. I liked it one day, I didn't like it the next day. So
yeah, titles usually come to me when I'm writing, and if I know it's going to be a title, it would just pop out at me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't think of the title for the life of me, and I'll ask my group, and I'll do a drawing, and I'll let them vote on it. In fact, my next book coming out, Waves of Memories, Barbara Miller, who's here tonight, she's the one that suggested that title, and the group voted on it. It got the most votes, so.
Oh, I love that.
That's what's going to be the title. So sometimes I just reach out to my readers, like, I can't think of a title.
Right.
And I give them a little background of what it's going to be, and
Yes.
I see a few more questions. I do want to pop up. I like to get as many questions as we can. Here's one from Shirley. She says, how do you keep the characters straight if you don't plot?
Well, as odd as it seems, strange as it seems, they become real people in your head. So I don't have to have anything on paper. If I'm thinking about one of the characters, I can see them in my head and their personalities and their attributes, just like I can someone that I really know in real life. So
I like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to add to that. When you're plotting and you kind of get the idea of the character and the characteristics, just a lot of times the characters surprise you by an action that you did not see coming.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not the only one.
No. And you think about them like they're real people.
Right.
I'll be chatting about a story with someone, and people have said before, "Oh, who are you guys talking about?" And it's my story. Oh, I thought you're talking about somebody real, and I'm like, they are. I created them.
In our minds, they are. I'm writing the last book of my Sabella series, and I know I'm going to miss those guys.
Yes.
After this book is done, I've been writing about them for 3 years.
Yes.
Yes, 8 books, and this is the final book in the series. It's going to be emotional because those people are family to me.
Right.
So it's going to be really hard to break away. And okay, guys.
Exactly. I would think. Yeah. Well, as I finished each of those books, it felt that way. You have the time period between. You can't talk to anybody about these people either, because you have to give the readers time to buy the books, read the books, and then so the first few book signings I do, no one has a clue yet because they haven't read it. So the longest characters all to yourself and just waiting to talk about them with somebody. So by now, a year later or a few months later, people have read Marietta. So
we don't want to give too much away. Yes. I do. Okay, we got time for a couple more questions. Hold on, let's see. I saw one from Karen. Here it is. Karen asks, how long does it usually take for you to write a book?
So Cartwheels and The Road to Marietta, I started in the spring. They were published in one was September, November. And the next one was published in November. So, but, it didn't take years or anything, but that's all day, all night, all the time. That's my whole life, right? While I'm writing, that's doing nothing else. My husband works nights and sleeps days, so it's perfect for writing. But yeah, I think, obviously it would take more if I did something else, but I have the freedom, fortunately, to just do that day and night.
There you go. Perfect. Now, you mentioned you have children. They're older. How old are your children?
Oh, my goodness. My daughter is 37. My middle son is 35, and my youngest is 25.
Do they read your books?
Yes. Oddly enough, my 25-year-old son read The Road to Marietta before anyone else did, and Mom, I love this book. You need to do this, get this out there so other people can read it. And he's, for a not reader, he doesn't read as much as he used to. He used to read all the time. And then my daughter has read the books, but I'm not sure about my middle son. I don't write in his genre, really. He likes a lot of nonfiction.
That's
So,
great. Though. Great support. And then Renee wants to know, does your husband read your books?
hey, Renee. Yes. So he hadn't read any of my stories. And then this little surgery I had to do, he sat there in the room before they wheeled me down to the operating room reading Cartwheels in the Dark. So yeah, his first book he's read since high school. He's not a reader at all. You know, he plays guitar, he'll read guitar things, you know, and
Right.
teach himself new songs.
And your surgery went well? Everything's okay?
It did. Yep. They took out some tumors along my jawline, which was a nice surprise because they were afraid they were up in my cheek as well, and they weren't. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So I'm healing great, and you know, it was.
That's
I took
good
all
that. That's
took
good
all
news.
that time off from writing or doing anything.
Well, you got to take care of you first, so you can continue to write books. Don't care of
Yes.
you, and you can't write your books. So I'm glad
Exactly.
you're doing good and you're on the mend.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to hand it over to you because you're going to do some reading for us.
I am. I'm going to read the prologue for Cartwheels in the Dark.
Okay.
All righty. Let's see here.
Readers love it when authors read from their work.
I love it when authors read from their books. Yep, it's nice to hear. So this is the prologue from Cartwheels in the Dark, Summerfield, Maine, which is a fictional place, in 1975. A single bulb hanging from the splintered old rafter cast a dim light inside of the rickety woodshed. The air was thick with heavy, earthy smells that come from days of damp rain and not so much as a drop of sunshine. The fog had swallowed up every inch of ground not covered by trees, and they too were partially lost in the mist. The sound of metal hitting rock, attempting to slice through hard patches of ground, laced with gnarled tree roots, filled the air. A moment of silence, then again, the echoes of metal against rock, over and over again until there were no more sounds at all. No nightbird songs, no crickets, nothing but the sound of a distant owl hooting to break the silence. From behind the trunk of the giant maple tree, I stood completely still. In my worn-out nightgown and bare feet, I stood as quietly as I could and waited, with no idea what I was waiting for. Something in my bones told me to stay out of sight. A game of hide and seek, except there was no game. This was real. The creaking of the shed door opening startled me. My fingers dug into the deep creases in the bark of the tree as I steadied myself and strained to see through the darkness and the fog. Someone was out there in the woodshed, but who and why? It was the middle of the night and the house was quiet. The other children had been asleep for hours now. I should have been too. And I would have been if not for the sounds of dead branches hitting against the thin pane of the bedroom window each time the wind blew. Like a message of Morse code, the tapping had been enough to wake me. It was only then that I heard the noises outside, the metal grinding against rock. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crept outside to see what was going on. Half of me knew I should not have been there behind that tree, the other half dying to know what was going on out there in the middle of the night. I should have stayed in bed. I shouldn't have stuck my nose where it didn't belong. Only it was too late for that now. I was there in the shadows, hoping to discover something, though I had no idea what. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness of the night, I saw it. I strained to see clearer, just to be sure, but there was no mistaking what was there in front of me. The outline of a body face up to the night sky, still and not moving. It was a body, all right. I didn't want it to be, but it was. I closed my eyes and counted to 10, as though somehow magically that would make it disappear. I brushed the strands of hair that had become dampened by the mist from my eyes. Slowly, I opened one eye and then the other. It hadn't been an illusion created by the fog or by my overactive imagination. Nope, it was real. Closing my eyes wasn't going to make it not be so. A body was lying there on the ground in front of the woodshed, perfectly still. All at once, I knew I had to run fast. Without looking back, I ran for the safety of the front door to the shack and flew to my bed, my feet barely touching the floor as I ran. Through the shoddy walls of the house, I could hear them, the heavy footsteps coming closer to the bedroom window. I threw the ratty quilt over my head and held my breath. So that's the prologue to Cartwheels in the Dark.
Wow. Read more. That's intriguing. Well, me
And
interested.
what's that?
I love these comments coming up. Love the live reading. Sounds like a book I would love to read. Vicky says, sounds like a great book. Vicky Fassetti, love the reading. Sounds like a book I like. I just put that one up, didn't I? Virgie says, wow, awesome. And sounds good from Darlene. One more. Renee says, oh my goodness, it sounds so good. Thank you so much for the live read. I love that.
Thank you.
The book you're working on now has no title. I understand that. Did you say you have a release date or no? You don't know.
No release date on this one. I'd like to say, yeah, it'll be a November, December release, but this one's a little more intricate in historical. It's a historical fiction, and it will be set in colonial America. Probably it'll be the East Coast, so it'll start in Maryland, end up in Maine, and it's quite a web. The story so far is taking me in a whole bunch of different directions, so I'm not sure. It could be December.
Okay. Someone had a question up here, and I won't be able to find it, but I'm sorry, I apologize to the reader that put it, but she asked, how do you decide on what location to set your books?
Well, I don't really decide. I sit there and start writing, and the location
just pops up.
It just pops up. I know a lot about history, so I think that helps in like now, just sitting there writing, and I think my brain knows, okay, so this took place during this period, and oh yeah, should work great in that period. So
okay.
I think that's how.
Do you research for any of your books, like if it's set in Maryland or the time frame? Do you do some research for the?
Oh yes, yep. That's so. Yeah, right now, today, for example, I think there must have been a ream of paper I printed off for research, and read everything I can get my hands on, and then I use whatever I need to fit for the story. A lot you don't use, but you
never know. You never know.
Right, exactly. It's something that's stored in there, and then as you're writing, it pops back in that, oh yeah.
So when you start writing, you have this idea for a book. When you say you have an idea for a book, do you have a plot in that book, or does that unfold? Do you just pretty much have, when you say you have an idea, is it the characters, the place, the time frame? Does the plot come about as you're writing, or you already have that in place too?
No, it comes about as I'm writing. Oddly enough, the book that I'm working on right now, I put the notebook out on the table the other day, and as odd as it sounds, I never know what's going to inspire me to start writing. I live in the trees here. There's trees around me and woods in the back, and I had an opportunity to step out of my back deck because all the snow was gone, and I was just loving it, checking out the yard to see how much snow was gone, and I heard a dog barking down in the woods. And I don't know what triggered that, but that dog barking in the woods, I came in and started forming a story around that. So, I don't
never know.
You don't know what's going to inspire you.
And here's an appropriate question from Renee. We talked regarding that. Do you wake up at night with ideas to put in your books?
Oh, yes. All the time. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning. Well, I'm a night owl anyway. So, especially if I'm writing, sleep's not happening. Sometimes I fall asleep at 10 o'clock in the morning and I'll grab a few hours, and, it's not a normal people schedule. I'm not up early in the morning, but when I wake up sometimes and there's really good ideas, it's like, oh yeah, I got to go write that down. Sometimes I'll write that down, further in the notebook for ideas to use it maybe later. Some I use, some I don't, but almost definitely I have dreams about my characters when I'm writing.
Do you ever wake up and have to write, like in the middle of the night?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. Yep.
So
The road to Marietta, I like to say somebody just needed that story told, because I woke up and then needed to write it. And it was like a crazy person sitting there not moving. My husband would come home in the morning. He said, "Have you been to sleep yet?" No, no, we're on day 2 now, but I just couldn't stop. It was like someone was in control of my pen. I just
someone turned on that faucet and
Right.
yeah.
And that came from sleep, from a dream.
Now, how about if you're out and about? Do you carry a notepad with you?
Yep.
You do.
Always.
Always.
Always. And if I left my notepad in the car or whatever, this stuff written on restaurant receipts, whatever.
Like
Yeah.
my dad. I mean, my dad. He was writing in the 70s.
Oh
But
yeah.
there was no computer, no cell phones, nothing like that. And we would go out and he would just totally ignore the conversation, whatever we were having, like a group of us. And he's writing on napkins. And I know what he's doing. He had an idea popped in his head. And
Yes.
the first thing he would do when we get home is just empty his pockets, a wad of napkins, and carefully take them to the office so they wouldn't get lost. He just totally ignored us. He was just sitting there writing on his napkin.
I bet there was a lot of books written that way.
Oh yeah, I still have some of those napkins.
Aw.
He put his ideas on. Yeah, I have. Some. So,
I love that. You should display them in frames.
yeah, I should, but they'll
Yeah.
pass away. So, um, let's see. Let me see. Laurie says you have to carry something with you to put ideas down. Do
Yes.
you have like a big notepad like this, or a little one that you can fit in your purse?
It's actually it's downstairs on the dining room table, but it's a big one like yours. That's what I'm writing in. But I have a smaller size notebook that I keep in my purse.
I say, otherwise you have to have a big purse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's big enough, filled with enough junk. So
I know. I keep shrinking my purse down, thinking if I get a smaller purse, I won't have to carry so much junk. No, I just cram more stuff in there, and I can't find anything.
Me too.
I can't win. No, you books. Both of them are categorized as historical fiction. Would you say?
Nope. Cartwheels in the Dark is just it's just a women's fiction. It's just general fiction, really. It's not even specifically for women. Lots of males have read it and love it. And but Road to Marietta is definitely historical fiction, and the next one will be also
historical fiction.
Yes.
Yep. Obviously, you like historical fiction because you're writing a second one. Me, it scares me. I love reading historical fiction, but to actually write it scares me because of the research. And you just talked about the pages and pages of research that you have to do.
Yes.
Do you think you'll try any other genre between women's fiction and historical?
Well, I'm kind of leaving it open to see what speaks to me and where it goes. My daughter desperately wants me to write a love story with a happy ending.
Oh, yeah, it has to be a happy ending.
Yeah, happy ending. I said, well, I don't know if it depends on whatever comes out. So this one coming up will have there's a bit of a love story in there. Okay. So, but I think I'm always going to write about it's always going to be someone's, not so much their struggle, but how they came through different events in life and didn't give up.
Yeah, the hope, the courage, the strength.
Yeah, the hope and the fact that nobody gets through this alone. You have to have people. There's you just, whether it's family, friends, whoever, and in both stories there were other people that came into play that they had to learn to trust after.
And that's a big issue.
And
you got to find your support team and let them help you. The problem with a lot of us is pride. We're afraid to ask for help. We're ashamed of choices we made.
Right.
And it's all about, just not caving in, but just admitting and asking for help. Even when I say asking for help, it could even be just talking about it.
Right.
That's
exactly.
That's a
Yeah,
huge.
I totally agree. I mean, we didn't live our lives alone to this point. All that we went through involved other people. And I don't think that as any one of us needs to ever be ashamed for the road that got us here, because it made us who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you learned and you don't repeat your mistakes. Some mistakes I repeated a few times before I
Yep.
learned my lesson.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of people understanding you're not stuck in that. Your mistakes don't define you, how you handle them and move forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'd like to write about that.
Yeah. Giving people hope. I think
Yeah,
it's great. And we are, I mean, it's an encouraging, uplifting story, is what you're writing. I think it's
right.
brilliant. Brilliant. And then Renee wants to know, we touched on this a little bit. Have you thought about writing a series?
I have, Renee. I think that both books that I've written so far could have sequels and prequels. And eventually I may do that. We'll see what takes shape.
One book at a time.
Right.
And
Yep.
when you're not writing, what do you like to do for you to take you out of your realm from writing or reading the books? What do
Yep.
you like to do for as a hobby or fun?
Oh yeah. I have all kinds of things. I paint, I
Oh,
sew, um, I do like if I'm watching television in the evening, I can't sit still long enough to watch a program. So I knit. So I make scarves all year long and then I donate them in the wintertime. Um, oh, let's see. What else do I do? I read. I like to read when I'm not writing. I can't write when I'm reading because
uh-huh.
my brain only has enough room for my people that I'm creating. And I want to give my brain that all the attention of my characters, and I don't want to, be influenced by anybody else's words. But I love to read when I'm not writing. Um, Spending time with my kids, and I spend a lot of time with my dad.
Yeah.
My mom passed 2 years ago, June.
I'm
So
sorry.
thank you. So, but dad's dad's like more active than I am. I have a hard time keeping up with it. Seriously.
Has Dad read your books?
He has. He read both of them.
Yeah.
Yep, and he liked them both, approved of both of them, and yeah.
With your books, is as the characters based on anyone you know?
No,
Many books?
people ask that sometimes, but I think the characters become um, bits and pieces of personalities that you've met throughout your life, or bits and pieces of personalities you wished were in a person throughout your life, and then you
Right.
just they're all jumbled together, and so no one person to this point anyway.
Do you see any of yourself within the pages? Maybe a habit or
Oh yeah,
anything? Yeah. I
yeah,
see myself a lot. Yeah.
yeah, me too.
And I
I
don't do it intentionally. When
no,
I read back, I see little things like, well, that's what I would do. Or,
yeah, me too.
that's kind of neat.
Hey, I would handle that way.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
little
I
traits
definitely see myself.
that we drop into the books.
Yeah.
And when you say you love to read, is there an author that inspires your writing, or do you have some favorite authors that you can
Uh,
suggest to us?
I don't even, there's so many today, recent authors that I love, but I always go back to the old ones, the Agatha Christie. I don't know why, she was the first grown up
Mm-hmm.
author I've read. JD Salinger, I'll read these books over and over.
You have favorite genres too?
Yeah. Well, I like mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's why I like JD Salinger is because he writes about the people and the struggle and not always, positive ending, but yeah, I don't know. I like the older ones. That when I'm getting ready for my free time to read, so I throw in older ones, I throw in new ones. But yeah, there's a ton of today's authors. You, Annette Anders, Yeah, it's just a billion.
There's a lot of authors out there to just narrow it down to a few. It's a tough question.
It is. It is a tough question because, especially this online author presence, there's so many.
It's
I
huge.
I never knew there was so many talented writers until I found everybody here, and I'm grateful. The support is, like you said, it's insane how grateful.
Yeah.
I
I love the book. I've met some wonderful people in the book community, including
Yeah,
all these readers here and you, but it's just a fantastic community.
it
And
is.
what I love about it is, we all support each other as authors, writers. We're not in competition with each other.
Right.
That's what I like about it.
Me too.
We all give each other support to help you push your books, read
Yep.
your books, get other readers to read your books. And it's just a friendly community.
It is. It is. I didn't even know that existed. I read some other horror stories before I ever published about, the industry being cutthroat and all of that. And
Yeah.
that's not what I found at all.
No, I mean, every group I belong to and I've been into, I've never found any vicious, attacks or, anything.
No.
It's very nice. I'm really impressed. Lisa
Me.
had a question for you. She's asking, where do you get your characters' names from?
They just kind of pop into my head too. Seriously. Today there was, while I was writing, a gentleman by the name of Jacob just popped into my head, and I don't know, honestly. I'll just be writing along and I connect a name to a story, and I'm
It
not.
just pops up.
Yeah, it just pops in.
And along the same lines, I'm not sure who this is, a Facebook user. She's in the group because it's private, but it says, I always like to ask, how do you come up with the characters in your book? Do they just pop up too?
They do. Yep, they do. The story I'm starting right now, like I said, I've got like 5 characters, and they just, as I'm writing, it's like somebody else takes over, and I don't know where any of it comes from. Just my brain.
I love when that happens. I mean, you write when the urge comes, you write in your notepad and stuff. So obviously, but when you're writing and you're in a scene, but then the next scene doesn't come, some people call it writer's block. You just stop and walk away, I'm assuming. You don't fight it.
Right. Yep. I've not found myself in that position, but I get up when I'm done writing. If I've written today, I wrote a few paragraphs and the scene stopped and I was done and I closed my book. And then whenever it speaks to me again, I'll open it up and we'll go from there. But no, I don't beat myself up. It's a labor of love, not something I force. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm like, I set myself a word count every day.
Yep.
And I don't go to bed until that word count is reached. So if it's at 2:00 in the morning and I still need 100 words and it's not coming, that's when I get frustrated.
Yeah.
Because I really want to go to bed, but I also want to reach my goal. And sometimes that's when I get really hard on myself. Instead of just letting it go, I fight it. Sometimes the book wins and I just give up and go, but I go to bed mad. I'm 100 words short.
Yes. Well, you also have a day job too, so that must
I have to get up
for balance. Yeah.
But I'm one of those that will get mad, and I shouldn't. I should have your attitude and be okay. I'm done. I'm going to go do something else.
Right. For me, that works better because I feel like if I'm too hard on myself, it becomes a job and maybe something I don't want to do. But I don't look at it as a job. It's a hobby that I get to share with other people.
There you go. Perfect. Perfect. I need to learn from you because it's healthier.
I need to learn from you on, how to stay on task probably a little more than I do, but mine's all over the place. So today I wrote for, I don't know, it was a couple of hours I wrote. Tomorrow I might not write at all,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't write it one sitting. I want to write 2,000 words a day. That is what I set myself every day. But it might be 400 words in the morning, and then I come to a stop. It's like, okay, it's not coming. I'm going to go do something else and go to work maybe. My other job, do that. But I do it in spurts. So it'd be 400 in the morning, maybe 600 when I get home, and then okay, I go to like 900 more before I go to bed.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I do. And sometimes I'll write, the 2,000 words the minute I get up. Like, okay, cool. The rest of the day is mine.
Right, exactly. Yep. But you're right in that if I don't have a word count or anything like that, but when I feel like I have something to say, if I don't sit down and write it, or if I have an appointment or something like that, I'm, aggravated because I want to hurry up and get back to that story. And
Right.
unless I write and get it off my chest and out of my head, then I'm not happy either. So I can see how going to bed at night and not reaching that goal would.
Yeah, even the 100 words. Okay. PISS.
Yes.
Well, I have to just learn to accept it, and I'll blame it on the characters. Well, they just don't want to talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to bed.
Next time you're upset, say, "What do I do?"
Yeah. So because sometimes I'll sit at my desk and I'm like, "Come on, I'm here. Talk to me." I'm here.
But they do talk to you, don't they? I felt crazy at first. I'm like talking about my characters, and I'm like, they do speak to you.
They do. I mean, I'm not make fun of my dad, but I didn't connect because I was a teenager.
Right.
But my dad would be sitting at the table and I would go like, okay, Dad, who are you right now? Which character are you? Because he would just be totally zoned into his character and not paying attention to anything we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's dinner times when families had, dinner at the table. But he was totally zoned out because he's just rolling in his head,
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, I got to go back to work. They're talking to me. I'm like, okay, Dad.
Or sometimes they wake you up talking to you.
I don't have that problem yet. Maybe
no?
No, I'm a very heavy sleeper. And I
Oh.
never remember my dreams. I mean, my phone, if it rings out, I won't hear it. I'm a very deep, heavy sleeper. So I've never had that problem yet.
That's good.
Yet. So no, I don't do that one. But
Sleep
I'm looking
at easy for me.
I'm sorry?
Sleep doesn't come easy for me. And I guess a light sleeper. So yeah, they do. They wake me up talking, and
I love it when they talk to us. I mean, what I love is I'm I cannot, I don't know about you, but I have to finish I have to finish chapter at the end of my writing. I try anyways to finish the chapter and not leave myself hanging. But I sit down and I'm thinking the story is going this route. We wrote, part of it yesterday. Then all of a sudden it takes a totally different direction than what I wasn't expecting. And I'm like, well, where did this come from?
Right.
You didn't tell me about this yesterday. You gotta warn me about these things.
Yeah. I need a heads up. Yeah, I feel the same. They do that too. And when the words are in your head, it's in that person's voice. I mean, that person's nudging me to write whatever. First time I ever told somebody that, I thought, man, I'm going to be in a padded room here pretty soon because I'm telling somebody that these people, I'm hearing voices. They're talking in my head. Yeah. And then I realized that I'm pretty sure a lot of writers do that.
And that's why we're going to miss these guys when we finish the books, the series of books, because we've had this conversation with them for the last month, year, whatever.
Right.
And who's going to replace them is my thought. Like, okay,
another character.
Who's coming next to talk to me? We'll find out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't set out to write what I'm writing right now. I didn't set out to write in that time frame or that timepiece, but that dog barking the other day just
triggered it. Well, I could talk to you for the next hour about our writing techniques and how we have most fun doing stories. An hour goes by really quickly, but I do need to wrap this up. But I want to ask you, Karla, before we wrap it up and talk about the giveaway, what advice would you give to an inspired author that wants to have the book published just like us? What advice would you give them from what you've learned on your experience?
Well, definitely never quit. If you feel like you have something to say, do it. Write it down, type it, however you want to do it. Not everybody's going to like everything you do, and that's okay. You don't have to write for the approval of everybody else. There are some people that like what I do, some don't, and that's okay. I don't
Same
I
here.
don't expect everybody. Yeah, you don't expect everybody to like something that you've done. But don't give up just because, one person doesn't like what you wrote or 10 people don't like what you write. Write for yourself. If it's something you would like to read, keep going on with that, and that's why I say it's my hobby. It's my hobby that I get to share with other people because it's not, I want people to connect to the characters the same way that I did as I created them, but they're not always gonna, and that's okay. So that's my biggest, that's my biggest piece of advice. Just learn to take criticism.
That's perfect advice because when I got my first bad review, it was hard. It was hard, but you have to learn. I wouldn't say grow a tough skin, but just say what you exactly said. You can't please everyone, and that's what we have to remember.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you look at the positive reviews versus the bad reviews, whatever you want to call them.
Yep.
You're outnumbered with the good reviews, and that's what matters. You reach readers that do enjoy your books, and that's what matters.
Yep, absolutely. I agree.
Great advice. And you got a giveaway for us?
I do. I'm going to give away a signed copy of The Road to Marietta.
I love that cover. I do. All right.
So how do I choose?
We should have discussed this before we came live, but sometimes I remember.
You're too busy chatting.
I know. We have options. You can either choose right now from the list, scroll down and pick a name, or we can do it after the live. Your call.
All right. I'm gonna scroll down, and where my arrow stops, that's who gets it. Okay.
Okay.
Vicky Waters, congratulations,
Vicky.
So, Vicky, if you send me your actual mailing address, or you can have it in Kindle format if you'd rather, but private message me and let me know which type you'd like, and if it's a paper copy, I'll mail it out to you tomorrow.
Congratulations, Vicky. And I'm also doing my $5 Amazon gift card. Most of you know how that works. Yes, we do it every day on the chat. You need to go to my author page and share this video wherever you can in your favorite reading groups, on your personal page, wherever you want to share it. But do tag me so I know that you did share the post, and share as many times you want. Not just once. You can share it once, 5, 3, whatever you want to do. And then you will be entered into the $5 drawing. And I usually wait an hour, so it gives you a chance to go share it. And I will announce the winner in my group this evening. And Karla, there's a lot of questions I know I didn't get to because you're just a fun person to talk to, and I try to get to many as I can. But feel free to go on the author page and in my group and check out any questions that we didn't cover if you want to answer them.
Okay. Nice, I will do that.
And tomorrow I will be uploading the recording of this to the podcast. And I will send you the links to the podcast. And I want to give a huge thank you to all the readers that joined us this evening. And Karla, I'll let you say the last few words and we'll be done.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate everybody showing up here today too. And thank you so very much for having me. For the past 2 years, past year mostly, watching all of these and saying, oh, I need to do that someday. I want to do that someday. I want to have a chat with you. So I'm very grateful that, you had me here, and I appreciate your time. It's been a blast.
I love these chats. I love meeting new authors. I love hanging out with the readers. And when your next book comes out, let's get you back on. I mean, I would love that. Let's get you back on when the new book comes out.
Okay? Sounds like a plan.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Karla.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you all.
In the group. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.